Hey guys, so just wanted to take some time to give you guys my thoughts, since this is any thoughts, about the whole SJWs and just how it relates to all the stuff that's going on right now, like Star Wars, the anime community, and then just some other thoughts about all of it. So, if you guys don't know, SJW, Social Justice Warrior, that's the people that get onto like Twitter, and that's the way they take to, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, most of them, I could live without them and it wouldn't affect me. So anyways, this whole thing, if you guys don't know, right now there's a thing going on with a voice actor named Vic Mignogna, and basically, kind of, if you guys followed any of the stuff that went on with Brett Kavanaugh when he was chosen as the next Supreme Court Justice, and then this whole Catherine Blasey Ford, whatever the heck her name was, which you don't hear anything about her now, right? Anyway, she came out and was like, oh, he, raped me, blah, blah, blah. This was 40 years ago, and now I feel the need to come forward about it. And they did this whole, thing, basically, and it wasn't even a real trial because no charges were ever actually brought against Justice Kavanaugh, which, by the way, he is now the Supreme Court Justice. So we know how that turned out. No charges were ever actually brought against him. It was all basically just done on Twitter and social media as like a character assassination to try to basically prevent this guy that Trump wanted as the, next Supreme Court Justice from getting in there, because, the liberal agenda wanted to come down on that. Anyways, now, one of the most probably liberal places you can think of, the anime community, is having the same thing, but it's against probably one of the most popular English voice actors that's out there. And you had a little group, they all conspired together, essentially, to basically bring what most opinions are now, is that false accusations against Vic Mignogna, saying he was a predator and sexually harassed people, and that all this different stuff, and none of them took any of this to a legal standpoint until basically Vic Mignogna lost cons, and he lost just jobs. He was released from Funimation. He was let go from Ruby, which is one that's done by the guys that did Red vs. Blue. Rooster Teeth. Sorry, I couldn't think of it. And so he, lost all this stuff. And now, because of all this, basically Vic Mignogna lawyered up, because, you ain't going to lawyer up, and fire the first shot like he did if you're innocent, or if you're guilty. You're only going to do that if you are innocent. So he lawyered up, and now he is filed a lawsuit against a group of people, which, in order to remain, I don't want some of the stuff that's happened to other YouTubers to happen to me, with attacks and stuff. So, because these liberal people, and I hate trying to generalize them, but I mean, they're a ferocious bunch on social media. You get them off social media and they don't know what to do, but they don't know how to think for themselves. And anyways, so Vic Mignogna lawyered up and is now suing them for a minimum of $1 million, but it's going to go to trial, basically for defamation or defamation, whatever it's called. Anyways, defamation, civil conspiracy. Oh man, I just watched Nick Rekieta. If you guys don't know who that is, Rekieta Law. He's anyways, go find his channel, and he did a 4-hour live stream with the lawyer for Vic Mignogna, and then read through like the actual lawsuits and all this stuff. And basically these social justice warriors that were out there making false claims, just like they did against Brett Kavanaugh, basically they're going to get their justice, but it's going to be real justice, not some stupid social media justice. They're going to get real justice in the court of law, and they're going to have to prove their statements, essentially. Otherwise, minimum of $1 million to, whatever the court decides, essentially, is going to be awarded to Vic Mignogna if they can't prove all these accusations that they brought on social media as true. So if they can't prove that, they're going to have to, fork out the dough. And, the biggest offender, basically the way it's worded in the lawsuit is that whoever is able to pay first pays first, essentially, whatever the sum is. And then, then that person can go after the other parties involved to reclaim their payment. Well, the main company that's involved is Funimation, which is owned by Sony. So obviously they're going to probably end up footing the initial bill, and then they're going to have to go after these other voice actors that decided that they wanted to, run their mouth about crap that ain't even true. Unless they can prove it, hey, if they can prove it, cool. But as of right now, the way it is, I don't think they can prove it. I don't think they don't have the evidence. If they did, then they should have and would have, and and the fact that they didn't initially take this to the police or whoever with this evidence makes them just as guilty, because then they essentially covered it up for however many years, essentially, and so they're just as guilty in it. But if they do have the evidence, then cool. But my money is on they're going to be forking out however many millions of dollars. So, and I couldn't be happier. I hope that, I don't know. I hope that these people that did this get what they deserve, and this will be, a shot across the bow, if you will, to all these social justice warriors that are out there that think, that they can just do whatever on social media, say, whatever false accusations they want to make, because without consequence. And they gotta now own up to the consequences. So, and this is the same thing. That was a long, drawn out, but this is the same thing that's going on in the Star Wars universe to a degree. They wanna push their social agenda into the movies, and it's affecting the fan base of the movies. I mean, look at Episode 8. It was probably one of the lowest. I don't know the actual stats, so I'm not going to even try. But in my opinion, let's do that because this is my thoughts. In my opinion and my thoughts, J.J. Abrams, good director, and they brought him back for Episode 9. Good on him. But, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy is still involved, and she is like the cancer in the Lucasfilm enterprise, basically. She's the one that's pushing to have, these social agendas of feminism and whatever forced into these movies and forced to the audience. And it's like, hey, if you don't think this way, then you're a terrible person. It's like, well, you can't. I mean, why are you trying to use a movie that's supposed to be broad and just supposed to be entertaining, and it's a sci-fi, and it can be whatever you want it to be, but then you're gonna try to cram it into this little box, and it's like, nope, this is what it's got to be. You gotta accept this social agenda, and if you don't, then well, screw you. And they attack. You got guys like Rian Johnson out there that produced Episode 8, which by far was one of the worst ones. That and Solo. And just these, it frustrates me because I love Star Wars, and it upsets me that they're making the franchise that is all about good versus evil, into these other things. And now, outside of the actual Star Wars movies, you've got, like, the bad guys essentially are in control of the Star Wars universe, and those good guys are like, hey, can you, just make the movies that we want to see? Can you just make, like George Lucas had what the sequel for 4, 5, and 6 was going to be in 7, 8, and 9. And they took that and they were just like, nah. Screw that. Let's start with something completely different. And by the time J.J. Abrams was brought in, Kathleen Kennedy had already scrapped that. So J.J. Abrams came in, made 7, and 7 was pretty good. I mean, a lot of it was, basically just throwbacks to, the other, a lot of it was pretty similar to Episode 4, kind of. But, it was good. People say, oh, it was just a remake of Episode 4, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, yeah, we haven't had a Star Wars movie in, since 2005 was when Episode 3 came out. So, when that one came out, we hadn't had any Star Wars movies in 10 years, something, So, I mean, yeah, that you got a whole new generation there that can watch that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, there needs to be some refresher and something that's familiar and people can relate to, and that's what JJ, I think, gave us. And then, from there it was going to go, there was a storyline to build on, and then, for whatever reason JJ walked away and they brought in Rian Johnson, and he basically what JJ had. He, did what Kathleen did to George's ideas and was like, nah, ignore that. We're going to completely destroy everything that was built up in episode 7, and we're going to make episode 8. And now they've brought JJ back in for episode 9, and they're like, hey, so episode 8 sucked. Can you fix it? And, hopefully, Lord willing, JJ will be able to do something with it. And now they've even gone as far as they have gone to George Lucas himself and asked for his help with episode 9. It's like, yeah, well, why didn't you just make what George had in the first place? If you would have just made what George had, you would have had something great. And, it would have, people would have liked it. Sure, there were some things, episode 1 came out and people were like, oh, Jar Jar Binks is so annoying. But then it turns out, and George changed it because of that. And I wish he wouldn't have, because Jar Jar, there's the conspiracy essentially, and he'll, George will never confirm nor deny, but there's the thing that Jar Jar was going to be the ultimate Sith, and I think that would have just been awesome, and it would have been like a slap in the face, essentially, to everyone that was like, oh, Jar Jar is annoying, and then he's like this ultimate bad guy, and you're like, holy cow, that was awesome, and that would have been cool. So, and I think George probably had some really good similar stuff like that in, his rendition of 7, 8, and 9. Somewhere out there, you can read it and go through it. I'm sure it's on the internet. I haven't personally looked it up, but I would like to, because 7 was good. 8 was terrible. Rogue One I liked, but that's literally because they took 2 lines from one of the original movies and they basically built a whole story around that. They're like, a lot of good people died in order to get these plans, and they're like, well, what would that look like if a lot of good people died to get these plans, and made a movie. And it was good. But then 8 was terrible, Solo was terrible, and hopefully they can bring it back. But unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy is still in control. Rian Johnson is still, there on the staff. Like, I don't know what we're going to get. And, it's frustrating. You got this kind of stuff going on in the anime world and in Star Wars. And it not only happens there, but it happens in, it happens in the real world, just like with Justice Kavanaugh. And, hopefully from this Vic Mignogna thing, we'll get to see some of these social justice warriors finally get some actual justice. And, maybe we'll be able to shut them down and move on with our lives and just get past all of this stupidity that's out there. But I don't think so. We'll see. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you guys later. Bye.